Very good. Well, thank you, everybody. Thank you, Tom. Welcome, everybody, to the Board of Education meeting. This is quite exciting. We typically have about 5 to 10 people in the room, so I apologize for the parking, but it's typically not an issue. So if you want to come back next month, choice of seats are yours. Just a few comments before we begin. We were in public session before. We broke for executive session. Now we're back in public session, so if you're following along in the agenda, we're at the President's opening comments. And I just want to set the expectations for tonight. I see there's a lot of students in the audience, and many of the parents know that the students have this saying, and it's called "We Are Chatham," and they have it in the hallways, and they do writing pieces on it. But essentially it speaks to the respect that they have for themselves, the respect that they have for those around them. It speaks to their integrity and their strength of character. So we're going to take a page out of, hopefully the students don't mind, we're going to take a page out of their playbook tonight, and we're going to, with our comportment and our behavior, we are going to exemplify their behavior. So if you do have something to say, please step up to the microphone. Please don't yell out and chirp. We are all friends. We're all neighbors. We're going to see each other in King's and ShopRite and churches on the streets, at the dog park. So please remember that. You are also being videotaped and it's being streamed live. So remember that. If you don't want your mom to see it, just don't say it. So again, let's just be cognizant of that. And if you do have something to say, we're anxious to hear it, but please use the microphone. So just while you're all here, just to quickly recap, the board has received many requests to set the record straight. We had, at the last meeting, a couple of parents came up and they had some opposition to the curriculum, and I know it's going to be of no shock, but that's a very typical meeting. It was not contentious, and again, it might be shocking to hear that really the only people that come to meetings have something that they oppose or they're against or they want their comments heard. Taxes are too high, you're spending too much on special education, you're spending too little on extracurriculars. So it's a very typical event to have a parent oppose something. In this particular instance, there was opposition. Dr. LaSousa did, he did address it at the time. It wasn't closed out. It wasn't a completely closed, the folks didn't leave satisfied. The board said that they would take it away and look at it further. And just to set the record straight, Dr. LaSousa, he did answer. He said that the teaching of Islam, I pulled up the minutes, the teaching of Islam is part of the New Jersey core curriculum. It's intended to broaden all the students' learning, and then he actually went on to read the core curriculum, which just in part says you need to compare and contrast the tenets of various religions, Buddhism, Christianity, Confucianism, Hinduism, Islam, Sikhism, Taoism, and particularly their patterns of expansion and the response to current challenges in globalization. I am certainly not the girl you want talking about in detail that curriculum. We have Dr. LaSousa and some of his staff that's going to go on before that. But what I did want to say is that the meeting, again, it wasn't very contentious. We graciously listened to all of the speakers, and there was 5 in the room. There's only 5 people that spoke last time. Nobody had a time limit. Everybody was able to speak for as long as they wanted. So that was, I just don't want people to think it was a contentious meeting. It's very typical to have people come up and oppose. Now, maybe some of the more unusual events that occurred, about a week after that, there was some comments made on public television that were just patently false. And that's what we need to set the record straight. And quite frankly, we're going to take advantage of the crowd and give you a little mini curriculum lesson, just because it's such a rock star curriculum. And we're all going to hear what Dr. LaSousa and the board and the rock star teachers already know. But there were 2 statements in particular that really drew a lot of negative attention to the school, to the administration, to the board, unfortunately to the students. And there was one statement was, and I'm quoting because I marked it on the video, second sentence into the interview, "No other religion is being taught." Patently false. Patently false. I don't know how to say that any more politely. Patently false. The second sentence right after that sentence was, "The curriculum crosses the line because it teaches one religion and not all others." Also patently false. But fortunately, we have Dr. LaSousa and we have some experts here, and you don't have to take my word for it. You're just going to have to be wowed by the actual curriculum that we do offer here. So if I can, I'm going to pause. This is a pause, Dr. LaSousa. I'm pausing in my spiel, and I'm going to pass it over to the experts in the room. Dr. LaSousa is going to begin, and I believe he has some folks, some of his support staff here as well.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Weber.
About the pause. It's a pause.
Yes, pause. Shall I proceed?
Yes.
Okay.
Please do.
So we're fortunate tonight that our supervisor of social studies, Steve Mayer, is joining us, and he has with him Stephanie Lukasiewicz, who's one of our 7th grade teachers, also taught 6th grade. And they met with our curriculum committee a week ago just to review some of the places where religion comes up in the social studies curriculum K-12. They're going to do the clinical treatment of this topic, so I'm not going to go into great depth about our social studies curriculum. That's not my role. I will just lend briefly, though, my personal account, I guess, as someone who's been in the district for a while, in my contact with this subject. So it was almost exactly 16 years ago that I came to Chatham. First time in my life I'd ever been to Chatham was to come to interview to teach Spanish at Chatham High School. And in the course of the interview process, it turned out that I was offered a job teaching Spanish half of the time and social studies the other half of the time. And in my first full week at Chatham and my first full week as a social studies teacher, the 9/11 terrorist attacks took place against our country. And I don't need to go into any detail about that. We all have our stories. We all have our memories. I can tell you it was an extraordinary day inside of the high school. But I bring it up because, A, it marked my start here. But more important than that, I discovered within weeks, if not days, of that tragic event, how committed our social studies teachers were to broadening the perspectives of kids. And I came to know almost immediately that our curriculum, certainly at the high school, but also at the middle school through the department meetings we were having at the time, that it already contained a lot of subject matter about culture and religion and world history and so on and so forth. And in the ensuing years, of course, it's been 16. It's hard to believe that they pass so quickly. But I've witnessed firsthand the great work that our teachers do. And I was thinking about it just as I went for a run earlier this afternoon. Ron Deloach, one of our veterans at the high school. When I was high school principal, one of the last years there, he's done 2 tours in Afghanistan himself since 9/11, and after the second tour, he brought with him one day to school after he'd returned from his leave of absence 2 soldiers that had served with him, and they stayed all day at the high school, meeting with classes, talking to students about the complexity of nation building and bridging a culture that was so different than their own. It was fascinating. We've had teachers who have developed courses like our Literature of the Holocaust course, our Mideast Studies course. We just recently, of course, put in a required mandated marking period class at the Chatham Middle School for Holocaust remembrance that not only addresses Holocaust with a capital H and the attempted annihilation of the Jewish peoples of Europe, but also addresses religious intolerance and the commonalities that genocidal acts often have with each other in dehumanizing people. So I just will end this very brief commentary by saying we're not perfect as a district. We can always get better. We can always evaluate more closely what we do and make improvements. And we're always happy to engage in that work. But at the same time, I'm extremely proud to be associated with the teachers that we have in this district, in particular in the social studies department. I support that work, and I will continue to stand by them as they do the important work that they do. So having said that, I'm going to call up Mr. Mayer and Ms. Lukasiewicz, and they're going to give about a 20-minute overview on this particular topic.
You thought I was kidding about the mini curriculum meeting. And in part, while Steve's setting up, I almost am happy they're doing this because one of the other comments, which was less innocuous and didn't garnish the violent, vulgar messages we got, but one of the comments was none of the curriculum meetings are in public. Well, that's also patently false because that very evening, we had an open curriculum meeting. People choose not to come, that's fine, but we had one. And a few weeks before that, we had one on the math curriculum, which we discussed K-12. Before that, we actually went over the entire social studies curriculum, and just before that, We went through all the changes that are taking place in the science curriculum because of the state standards. So you can't say we don't have them. And sometimes the topic is so significant, I apologize, Mr. Mayor. Sometimes a topic in a curriculum change is so significant that we actually make it part of the Board of Ed meeting. For example, the design and technology, I was looking at Jill Jaworski, it was completely revamped. That was a Board of Ed presentation. Every year, Mr. Groh and Mr. Jaworski come in and they talk about the program of study changes that are going to occur the following year, whether it's changing the sequence of a course, eliminating a course. So we have 5 to 6, even sometimes 7 open curriculum meetings. You can say you choose not to come, but you can't say we don't have them. So we're going to we're going to take advantage of the captive audience. But Mr. Mayor, this is another curriculum meeting where you get to show your wares in social studies.
Well, thank you.
So thank you, sir, and I apologize for those that feel trapped right now.
No. Well, I am happy to be here tonight, and I'm really grateful to be able to talk to the Board of Education about social studies, because I love talking about social studies and history, and will do so at any time, at any place, for any reason, whether people want to hear me talk about it or not. To be frank, I do sort of wish that we were meeting under better circumstances, but I've been asked to come to the Board of Education tonight to speak about social studies and our program, and specifically how we teach about religion from kindergarten through 12th grade. So we're here tonight to talk about the education of children and religion, which easily trade rank as the first and second most important thing in most people's lives. A lot of people define their lives by the success and safety and well-being of the children that they bring into the world. Many people found their entire lives by their religion. And it is probably why that the rhetoric and emotions surrounding this issue has sort of a sharp edge to it. But I would also think that this is also the reason why we have to include it in our classrooms. If religion is so important to so many people in the world, then it can't be absent from our classrooms. The very same forces that make religion so important to so many people are the same forces that make us obligated to teach about religion and to work very hard to make sure we do it in an appropriate way and that we do it well. Because, by definition, history and religion is sacred. Yet, there are many different religions. And as much as we find similarities between them, we know that there's just as many differences. Even people who practice the same religion might hold its values differently or practice it differently. And we are engaged in educating all of the children in a community, in a public school system, in a democratic society. So we are morally and legally obligated to provide the best education to help all children grow to their full potential in knowledge and awareness, and at the same time respect all religions. And this is the challenge I'm here to talk to you about tonight. First, I'd like to talk about why we teach about religion. Secondly, I'd like to provide you with some explanation of the guidelines we follow to determine how we teach about religion. And then with the help of Ms. Lukasiewicz, I'll give you a guided tour of our curriculum, our lesson plans, the resources, the readings that children do from kindergarten through 12th grade, and to view the way in which we teach about religion. First, we have to start with a definition of what social studies is. Social studies is the study of how people live their lives as individuals and in groups. So from kindergarten through 12th grade, an ever-expanding awareness and through more and more sophistication, our students and teachers ask questions and answer questions about what it is to be human. How do people live their lives as individuals and in groups? And we look at that through the lens of the social sciences. So we'll try to answer questions about the human experience by looking through archaeology, anthropology, economics, geography, history, jurisprudence, political science, psychology, sociology, and religion. Religion is just one of the lenses we use to look at how people live their lives as individuals and in groups. Can you imagine yourself if you didn't have any knowledge of any religions, any basic knowledge of the symbols, of the practices, or what different religions look like, or what areas of the world they're associated with? How could you understand history? How could you understand current events? How could you appreciate literature, or art, or music? You couldn't. One of the reasons that we have to teach about religion is we have to make the world intelligible to students. At the same time, we have to recognize the fact that for Americans, religion is pretty important. A Pew Research study in 2010 had 6 out of 10 Americans saying that religion was very important to their lives. Now, that same study showed that more than half of Protestants could not identify Martin Luther as the person whose writings and actions inspired the Protestant Reformation. More than half of Americans can't identify Joseph Smith as a Mormon or the Dalai Lama as Buddhist. So I think those those sort of reasons explain why we have to teach about religion. And we couldn't ignore it entirely. If we were to wipe out all religion from social studies and not teach about religion, we'd be giving students the false impression that religion doesn't make any difference in history and religion doesn't mean anything to people. And that is clearly not the case. Now, as already, as we talk about the academic or moral reasons to teach about history, there's a much more simple, straightforward reason why we have to teach about religion, and that is because we are required to by law. It was already mentioned earlier, the New Jersey New Jersey Student Learning Standards, as written by the Department of Education, stipulate specifically that we have to teach about the various tenets of world religions. This is a cumulative progress indicator, a CPI, and that first number there, 6.2, refers to the World Studies Standard. So this is an indication of progress towards meeting that learning standard. The 8 in the number means that this has to be done by 8th grade. That students must compare and contrast the tenets of various world religions, as was just read earlier. Now, I guess I want to take a little aside here and show you the subtle complexity of anything that's written by the Department of Education. If you notice, it says world religions that developed in or around this time period. This comes from the classical era. That's where it fits in the whole scope and sequence of their standards. Yet, it also says that we have to study their patterns of expansion and their responses to the current challenges of globalization. So we have to do past and present at the same time. Now, part of the reason that we're here tonight is over lessons that touched upon the 5 pillars of Islam. Every district in the state has to meet that standard. And the districts you see listed on this slide are high-performing, respected districts in the state, and they also, on the public section of their websites, you'll find curricula, lesson plans, readings, unit guides that mention the 5 pillars of Islam. There's nothing that we do that's essentially different than these other districts, but I will add that we do it just a little bit better. Now, that covers the legal and moral or academic reason why we have to teach about religion. Now, that's only half the problem. We have to turn to the much more trickier challenge, and that is, how do you do it? How can you teach about religion in a public school, in a democratic society, and make sure that we don't violate the constitutional rights of any student, and that we address all religions in the appropriate way, and we teach in the appropriate way? Here are some basic guidelines that we think about and that just become part of our practice in teaching about religion. One of the things we have to make sure is that our teaching is objective. It's academic, it's not devotional. We are trying to come up with lessons, and we plan them and we work on their implementation to make sure that we're providing students with an awareness of religion, not acceptance. This is a study about religion. It's not the practice of religion. Now, I'd admit that there is some confusion in our schools. Any human enterprise has some level of confusion. But I can assure you, there's no confusion in our social studies classrooms. Students know that they're learning about religion. They know they're not practicing religion. At the same time, we have to make sure that we are providing a broad spectrum of awareness, that students get exposed to many different religions. And when Ms. Lukasiewicz and I go through the lessons that we have from kindergarten through 12th grade, you may well get the impression that all we teach is about religion, because there's so much stuff here. I assure you that's not the case. Now, like any good social studies person, I have to cite my source for the stuff that you've just been looking at. The quotes that you've seen on the past 2 slides and the guidelines come from a document that's called the Teacher's Guide to Religion in the Public Schools, and it's published by the First Amendment Center. And the publisher is not so important as the list of organizations who have endorsed this document. So the stuff that I have been talking about, the quotes you've seen, the guidelines you've seen, have been endorsed by religious organizations like the American Academy of Religion, the Baptist Joint Committee on Public Affairs, the American Jewish Congress, the Christian Legal Society, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, the Islamic Society of North America, the National Association of Evangelicals, and the National Council of Churches of Christ in the USA. That is a broad spectrum of religious organizations. And also educational organizations. Endorsing this document are the American Association of School Administrators, the American Federation of Teachers, the National Council of Social Studies, the National Education Association, the National School Boards Association. Anybody who's worked on any committee, a Senate, a church council, a board of directors, or even a board of education, knows how difficult it is to get any group of people to agree on anything. It's even more difficult to get people to agree upon specific language in a policy document. And all of these organizations have agreed to the document that we've just been looking at that explain reasons why to teach about religion and guidelines that you can follow in trying to figure out how you teach about religion. And now I'd like to start the sort of tour through social studies from kindergarten through 12th grade. And we're going to start with our youngest students. So we have to put ourselves in the mind of someone who is 6 or 7 or 8 years old. This is a very important, very impressionable age. And social studies at this point focuses on the students themselves. It focuses on their families. They learn about their school and their community and communities around the world. It's really at this point that social studies has a foundation in character education. We want students through our social studies lessons to recognize similarities between people and to appreciate and respect differences among people. So just as we teach students about the similarities and differences in class and in school, we're going to show them how the celebration of holidays are alike and different around the world. In kindergarten through 3rd grade, the rhythm of the school year is really important. That calendar and the next holiday is something that surfaces in social studies a lot, and social studies has a strong vein of cultural transmission. So what we'd like to do is, what we found is that a student's first interaction with religion is through the cultural celebration of holidays. We want to make sure that our students know that there are people who might practice the same religion but celebrate the holidays in a different way. We also want students to know that there are different religions and that there are people that have their own celebrations and their own family traditions. Most of all, we want to show students that there is a world beyond themselves. Now, there are different ways we can do this. In some classes, we'll take a holiday that most of our students are familiar with, for example, Christmas, and show them how it's celebrated in different ways around the world. Students might encounter a mentor text like the Legend of La Befana, which is an Italian folktale. It's also similar to a Russian folktale called Babushka. It basically deals with an old woman who's visited by the Magi, the 3 wise men of the Christian tradition. And she goes with them on their trip to Bethlehem to see Jesus. She also leaves gifts for children along the way, so there's a crossover there with the icon of Santa Claus. But students understand that they're in Italy, there's a celebration of Christmas that's a little bit different than the one they're familiar with. They also have this with a lesson, a book dealing with the legend of the poinsettia in Mexico. And this is also around Christmas, but dealing mainly with decorations and the way that the poinsettia is used for decorations, which incidentally is also linked to the way that the Aztecs use poinsettias as well. In December also, students will encounter the Jewish holiday of Hanukkah. Through a book like Hanukkah, as you see pictured here, the book deals with the family celebrating the holiday. The symbol of that holiday, the menorah and its 8 candles, has a backstory to it. So students are going to learn why the holiday is 8 days, how the family celebrates it, what's the food, what are the gifts, what are the games that they play as part of that holiday, and they'll understand it as a festival of lights. I guess it's important to note also here that there are more than 40 sections of students between 1st and 3rd grade. Not every student reads these particular books or has these particular books read to them. They might be provided with another mentor text that exposes them to the same type of learning, or they might go to there's a website called Enchanted Learning that provides age-appropriate summaries of different holidays, and students are tasked with a specific job to find a holiday that you don't celebrate and learn about it. They might also do the same thing with a video subscription service that we use called Discovery Education. Now, we also have some families that are generous enough to come to the classroom and share their family's tradition. So there are students in our district who learned about the Festival of Lights in the Jewish religion, who then learn about another Festival of Lights in the Hindu religion through the holiday of Diwali. By the time students get to 4th and 5th grade at Lafayette, they're going to become a little bit more sophisticated in social studies. 4th grade is a regional study of the United States, and students learn how to think like a social scientist, like an historian, a geographer, a political scientist, or an economist. There's also part of that course that deals with immigration. So there are students who will read books like Hannah's Journal, which chronicles the life of a 10-year-old girl whose family is persecuted from the Cossacks and the pogroms in Eastern Russia and is forced to come to the United States. So they get a little bit of exposure to the Jewish tradition and what Jewish identity is, and the cultural transformation that has to go through with people who are forced to leave one side of the planet and go to another, just in order to be free from religious persecution. In 5th grade, students start their study of U.S. history, and there's no way to understand the colonization of the colonies and to understand the Pilgrims without understanding a little bit about the split in the Catholic Church and the formation of the Church of England. Students have to know a little bit about the fact that religion and a dispute over doctrine endangered these people's lives. Something like religion made people leave everything and everyone they know to move to a different country, in this case Holland, and then subject themselves and their families to 8 weeks of misery crossing the Atlantic to be in a complete wilderness just to practice their religion freely. So in that way, we're exposing students to the side of religion that shows how much it can affect history. Moving on to the middle school, I'd like to pass the microphone to Ms. Lukasiewicz, who has had experience teaching both 6th and 7th grade.
Some of you may know her as Miss Cabiello.
Pardon my nerves. I'm just going to pretend you're a bunch of 12-year-olds.
We are.
Thanks.
My wife says the same thing to me.
So in 6th grade, students get a survey course of ancient civilizations. And in this particular unit, they have a unit on world belief systems, including the Chinese philosophies, Christianity, Judaism, Islam, Hinduism, and Buddhism. Teachers approach this unit in a sense of how these belief systems formed, as well as how they impact the cultures in which they were created. And throughout this unit, they do either a project or presentation, depending on the year, where students investigate each of the different religions or belief systems with the purpose of teaching it to their peers. The goal of this unit is for them to understand how they formed, but also to understand what all belief systems have in common. Through their investigation, they find basic information about religion, including their main sets of beliefs. So during their information gathering, students complete a graphic organizer such as this one. This is just part of one. To fill out, and then the rest of it they fill out while they are listening to their peers' presentations on the different religions. Handouts such as these, and I think I saw them floating around to the public, were created to help students make sense of the world religions, since at a 6th grade level, religion is still a pretty abstract concept to grasp, especially ones that they're not super familiar with. Throughout this unit, students do encounter Judaism's 10 Commandments, Christianity's sacraments, and Buddhism's 4 Noble Truths, and the Eightfold Path. After their survey course in 6th grade, the students get to study the different world regions in 7th grade, and 7th graders are exposed to religion in a way as we discuss how belief systems impact culture and impact countries as a whole. So we decide which religions to discuss based on the majority of the people in that region, since it's our overall goal to give students the broadest overview of the world throughout the year. Religion is first encountered in 7th grade when we do Latin America. As we do Latin America, students get to do investigations on the different sub-areas of Latin America, Middle America, the Caribbean, and South America. And as they're presenting to the class, students are noticing trends and patterns as Christianity pops up as the common or most popular religion throughout their presentations. So as we're discussing this trend, it also leads us to talking about some of their recall from 6th grade and some of their main beliefs and holidays that they celebrate and how it's very similar to things that they might celebrate or that they've seen in the U.S. This also leads us to a really great discussion as to how Christianity made it to the Americas to begin with, and then we talk about the Columbian exchange. As we get to our region of the Middle East, North Africa, naturally we have to talk about the religion of Islam, as the majority of people in this region do identify themselves as Muslim. But before we do enter this discussion, given the nature of the world that our students live in today, we do take a moment to talk about something called generalizations. Students are taught that there are valid and invalid or faulty generalizations, how to recognize them, and why it's important to be aware of generalizations at all. Students in our classes today have so much more interaction to the outside world via social media and television. This is a perfect opportunity for us to teach them how to be wary of what they read and what they hear. We give class examples as seen on the board, as well as we have students come up with their own real-life examples based on their prior experience or things that they've heard. And we take that opportunity to talk about, well, is that a valid generalization? Is that an invalid generalization? Why? What makes it so? And it provides a really great discussion, and we they're learned to be leery of words like everyone or no one or all or never, because those are words that make those statements invalid. Students are taught that valid generalizations do help us to understand large groups of people and regions, and that those valid generalizations do come from facts and experiences. And another important lesson that is taught through here, also throughout all of 7th grade, is that their opinions are only as strong as the evidence that they use to support it. And this is one of the areas where they're able to really see that come to fruition. The generalization lesson provides to be really valuable because students do become really careful about the words that they say after we talk about this, because they realize how many generalizations they make on a regular basis, and they'll even call us out on, oh, I think you made a generalization, and then we'll stop, take it as a teachable moment. And even though it's getting us called out, it's actually very valuable, and they do take a lot away from it. The last part of this generalization lesson does lead us into our segue into the religion of Islam. And we do ask students straight out, why do we talk about generalizations before we talk about the religion of Islam? And students are very quick to point out that the media and others are very quick to make generalizations about religion at all, especially in these times about Islam and the Middle East. This simple discussion just makes them more active listeners, and that's really important, especially with the amount of media and stuff they're faced with every day. The next day and a half, the students are introduced to the religion of Islam through something we call scavenger hunt notes and discussions that lead them to talking about the basic beliefs, but also how those basic beliefs impact the culture of the region. Since the 5 pillars of prayer and fasting, etc., do impact the daily lives of the people in that region, it's really hard to understand the culture and that region at all without understanding what they believe in. This same theme follows when we get to our region on Asia. We take a look at Buddhism and Hinduism. Both are integral parts of culture in this region as well. Students, again, do an investigation of different countries in Asia, and as they present, they notice patterns and similarities amongst the countries. The trend of similar religions also pops up here. We compare and contrast the religions of Hinduism and Buddhism and talk about how those religions impact the daily lives of the people that live there. For example, students that get an in-depth look at India throughout this unit as a whole and how it interacts with the world as a global power. But understanding this society would be incomplete without understanding how religion plays a part of their daily lives. So studying belief systems and how they impact people of the region, students are becoming way more aware of the different cultures that exist and how the world works more completely. And a geography course in 7th grade would be incomplete without talking about religion, just simply because of the impact that it does have. So, Mr. Mayor.
Everything you want to know about history.
And then some. Students complete their middle school exposure to religion not only in our civics course and its study of the Bill of Rights and the First Amendment's protection against the free exercise of religion, but also through a Holocaust and Human Behavior course, which Dr. Lisusa mentioned earlier. This is a course in which each and every student at the middle school takes, and it is a marking period long, and students are exposed to the identity role of the identity of Jewish people, to understand about the religion as it relates to the Holocaust and the development of anti-Semitism. When students get to ninth grade, they return to U.S. history. New Jersey is one of only 2 states in the country that requires by statute 2 years of U.S. history. But in ninth grade, students return to their study of U.S. history from 5th grade, but they are going to interact with it in a much more sophisticated way and look at it with a much more, to understand its complexities. So we again return to the Pilgrims and Puritans, but in this case, the students are going to dig a little deeper. They'll have to understand that the Puritans and the Pilgrims were 2 different people, that the split in the Catholic Church that created the Church of England had required people in England to belong to the Church of England. But the Pilgrims believed that that church should not exist, and they wanted to separate from that church. That's what drove them to Holland and then to Massachusetts. The Puritans, who followed a few years later, and in much greater numbers, did not believe that did not want to separate from the Church of England, but just wanted to purify it. And that's a distinction that you need to understand in order to understand the history of that colonization. Students in our Honors U.S. History class might read the sermon by John Winthrop called A Model of Christian Charity. This is often misnamed as A City on a Hill, but that's what's included in that sermon. Since the time of him giving that sermon on the Arabella, which was sort of the Puritans' Mayflower, the idea of American exceptionalism and the idea of a city on a hill has been referred to by politicians ever since. So if students encounter a reference to a city on a hill in a speech by, let's say, Ronald Reagan, they'll be able to understand the connection between that and the past. About 100 years later, a religious revival erupts across the colonies from Georgia through Massachusetts. And this, in order to understand it, students have to understand what an evangelical Protestant movement looks like. And they'll read either excerpts from Jonathan Edwards' sermon, Sinners in the Hands of an Angry God, or they'll read diaries or journals. And what we're trying to show to students is that there are historians who make connections between the challenges to social hierarchy and individualism here and the movement for independence, which occurs at the end of the century. And students read these primary source documents to see if there's any merit to those claims. I should also note, in connection with the Great Awakening, that many of our students are interested in colleges and universities that were born in this era. So the College of Rhode Island, which became Brown as a Baptist reaction to the Congregationalists at Harvard and Yale, or even the Presbyterian Princeton, which was formed as a reaction to the Anglican King's College, which became Columbia, and of course our own Dutch Reformed Queen's College that became Rutgers. 11th grade students take a World Studies course, and this is a course that's organized chronologically. It's a history course that starts with the age of exploration and comes to the present. And we really start at the age of exploration because we're starting at the time in which humans sort of got a sense of what the globe was and have been interacting ever since. It's a globalization course. We use materials from the World History for Us All, which is a project from the National Center for History in the Schools at UCLA in conjunction with San Diego State. And in this example, students are reading primary and secondary source documents to understand Confucianism, Taoism, and Buddhism, and to take that understanding and to see if they can apply it to a series of quotes and be able to make a link between the quotes and the religion. Another example from World History for Us All, that's just one of many sources that we use, but this lesson has a primary source document and another lesson associated with it in which students compare and contrast the Hindu religion and Islam. And the reason they're doing this is to understand the origin of the Sikh religion, which among the religions we study is one of the more recent religions. It was formed in the 15th century. Yesterday in Seattle, a Sikh man was working on his car in his driveway, and another man came up to him and said, "Get out of my country," and shot him. In 2012, there was an attack on a Sikh temple in which 6 people were killed. If we're successful, when students hear a story like that, when they hear of someone who is involved in the news that is Sikh, they will know a little bit more about that religion. They will know where it comes from. They will know what other religions that are similar and different from it. And at the very least, in connection with the Sikhs, they'll understand that a turban is not associated with the religion of Islam, as it is associated with the Sikh religion. Two other lessons from world studies I'd like to show you. One is from a 1969 article in Nature magazine called Eating Christmas in the Kalahari. This was written by a social anthropologist who was living with the Kung tribe in Africa, and he wanted to celebrate Christmas with them in a Western European tradition, so he went to a local farmer and bought this big giant ox. And he couldn't understand why the elders in the tribe were making fun of him. They said, "This is just a puny thing. Why don't you get us a real meal? We're not going to be able to dance at your celebration because we're starving here with this tiny ox that you bought," even though he bought this huge ox. What he was running into is a clash of cultures. In that tribal tradition, they never complimented a hunter that came back with a successful hunt. They never wanted him to develop an ego, so they always insulted him, no matter how much he brought back.
Well, they should have too.
But you see a native culture and a Christmas tradition and how they come together in that lesson. I also want to share with you syncretism, and it would be helpful if the pictures looked a little better here, but syncretism is a blending of cultures. And this surfaces in the World Studies course in the age of Christian missionaries. And students look through artwork to see images that are from the iconography of the Catholic religion and see how it surfaces in different cultures around the world. So they look at Christian art that's made in the Mughal court in India, or look at Christian art through the eyes of the Chinese. And the picture on the right is from you're looking at Christianity through the eyes of Andean cultures, and that's from Bolivia. The last two courses I want to talk about are advanced placement courses. Advanced placement courses have a curriculum that's written by the College Board and then taught by our teachers. AP World History is a beast. There's no other way to describe it. It starts from the beginning of human beings on this planet and goes to just about yesterday. And students start in September and finish it by May. So in this lesson here is an example. Students are exploring the foundations of Judaism. So they're encountering Yahweh, they encounter the Torah, they encounter the Ten Commandments, and what they're using is the tenets of that religion, the symbols of the religion, the basic facts about that religion in an historical sense. How can they understand early civilizations by studying Judaism? Those students also, AP World History students, also read excerpts from the Gospel of Matthew and the Gospel of Luke. One of the great misunderstandings about religion in public schools is that the Bible cannot ever appear in school. That's simply not true. Some of the earlier Supreme Court cases that dealt with this issue, for instance, Abington versus Shemp from 1962, that was involving a school that had 10 verses from the Bible read over the speakers every day. Each student had to recite the Lord's Prayer. Tom Clark, the Associate Justice who wrote the opinion for the court in that case, said, essentially, nothing that we are saying in this opinion says that you cannot teach about the Bible in a secular lesson. Now, students here are reading excerpts from the Gospel of Matthew in the course to understand what are the social implications of Jesus' Sermon on the Mount. What does the way in which his teachings contradict and challenge thinking at the time? And this is the same with the Gospel of Luke. They are trying to understand by what is Jesus' definition of the goal in life, and how does one achieve that goal, and using that to understand a little bit more about the Roman reaction to this and Roman rule in Judea. We've been teaching AP European history at Chatham High School for at least 15 years, and there is no way you can understand European history from 1450 to the present without encountering the Catholic Church. Certainly in the late Middle Ages and through the Renaissance. So these students, in order to understand the Protestant Reformation, will have to understand a little bit about the doctrinal disputes that caused it. They'll have to know about the difference between Martin Luther's justification by faith alone and the Roman Catholics' justification through works. They'll have to encounter the word transubstantiation and know what it means. In order to understand the political and economic ramifications of the Protestant Reformation, they have to know about the religious dispute that started it. And I'd like to close with just two pieces of evidence. One is the scores that you see on the screen. These are advanced placement test score results from 2016. In the yellow, you see the pass rate that's national for those exams. The green is the New Jersey pass rate, and the blue that towers over them all is the Chatham pass rate. This is testament to the work of teachers and students. And if you look at the courses there, this mirrors the first slide in this presentation. Art history, economics, history, government and politics, psychology, and in each and every one of these courses, they're meeting success. 95% of our students passed the AP US History test last year, 99% of our students passed the AP World History test, and 100% of our students who took the AP European History test passed it as well. Last but not least, that pie chart on the bottom shows that social studies accounts for 46% of all of the passing AP tests at the high school last year. We're overrepresented there. That's one piece of evidence. But really, the second piece of evidence is more valuable. Over the past couple of weeks, myself and other teachers and the administration have received emails from alumni, from students who graduated from Chatham High School, some as many as 15 years ago. And you could see from the emails that they originate from and from the titles underneath their name that all of these students are successful. And they come from every continent on the planet. That's where they're living now. What's not as important as their success is really the messages that they shared with us, which revealed their temperament and their well-being. And that's testament to the hard work of the teachers and students in our schools and the connection between the community and the school district. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve.
Now may be a good time to ask for a raise.
And the basketball game is in overtime. 51-51.
All right, go Cougars.
Thank you. Mike, did you have any closing comments before I remove my pause? I'm just reminding you I'm on a pause.
No, I just want to thank Mr. Mayor and Ms. Lukasiewicz for taking the time this evening and for spending all the time recently in putting together that presentation. It was very informative, and you've done a great job, and I really appreciate it, and I think we all do. I do have a couple of other items under the superintendent's report. I don't know if you want me to jump in.
We're still in the president's
No
report.
problem. Then I'll unpause you, and you can take it away.
Very good. Thank you, Dr. LaSousa. I really appreciate that. So again, just to recap, it seems like we're covering the religions fairly thoroughly. I think everybody would agree. Poor Steve, you must be a ball at parties. Your poor children. We'll invite you. But it certainly seems that they're very thoroughly covered, and now I feel a little more sorry for my children than I did previous to this day. But I just wanted to wrap up. Just listen, here's the thing. Our students are on a 13-year journey here in Chatham. And it's to develop an understanding of the world around them. And to quote Dr. LaSousa, because he writes and speaks so eloquently, in his newsletter he said, "This is something that is only achievable through the deliberate work and material and topics previously unfamiliar to students." And that's what they're getting. They're getting material that was previously unfamiliar to them. That's the only way to gain knowledge. And I really have to say, it's this deliberate and measured approach to education that makes Chatham so successful. It's why many of us chose to live here. And it is a choice, right? We can live places that are cheaper, right? It's just fact, sorry, it is. And again, there's tons of great reasons to live in Chatham. And darn close to the top of that list are the school systems. And the great school systems do not happen by accident. It is absolutely the professional, the leadership of the superintendent that makes that all happen, bar none. We're here because of his leadership. And it's the administration that are around here. I see them in the audience and around the tables, and the supervisors that supervise all of the curriculum areas. And I'm going to point to Stephanie to represent the teachers and the teachers in the back. They are exceptionally gifted teachers with one job in mind, one job: to educate the children of our community so that when they leave here, they have the confidence and the knowledge to be successful And I read some of the emails that Stephen mentioned, and oh my God, these kids are unbelievably successful. So it is not just rhetoric. This is a process, it's a journey. We are very fortunate to be here. It's a very well-rounded, and I didn't see any evidence of any religion being valued one over the other, and it's quite thorough. But again, this is why we chose to live in Chatham. And again, to steal from the kids' motto, this is why we are Chatham. This is our background. This is what we value. This is what we will continue to value. So again, I have to say thank you to Dr. D'Souza and his staff, and well done, and please keep up the good work. As I said, people typically don't come to the meetings to say, hey, Mike, keep being Mike. But I'm gonna say it. Mike, keep being Mike. Now, I would be remiss if I didn't give the opportunity. Michelle Clark is our curriculum chair, so she heads a lot of these meetings. So I'm going to ask Michelle just to say a few brief words, and then Mr. Connors is the chair of policy, which also came into question because of the religious nature, and you know, it's only fair. So I would like Mr. Connors to maybe close with the board comments, and then I know you're all here, so, you know, some of you want to speak, and we're going to move on with the regular agenda as quickly as possible. So if I may pause just for a moment for Ms. Clark, and then Mr. Connors, and then we'll continue with the agenda.
I'm not going to make my
No,
personal
just your...
comments. Yeah, just a lot of the events occurred while we were heading out to vacation, and I can't thank our teachers, our supervisors, our administrators. They made themselves 100% available to us on their own time. I think tonight, you know, for sticking out this presentation, it shows the amazing passion and knowledge that our supervisors and staff have. They've answered questions we've had. They've been very thorough in the responses. We as a board wanted to make sure that we were educated. I feel like I personally have gone back to middle school, and I'm actually excited about it. I was really pleased with the program of study. Thank you for the passion and the knowledge you bring every day to your job, to our students, and we can't thank you enough from the board's perspective.
Thank you. And over to Mr. Connors, again, the chair of the policy committee. Sorry.
When the issue was first broached, two of the committees were asked to look at the issues that were raised and review them. One was the curriculum and the other one was the policy committee. Policy committee there, we met actually on February 8th, which I think was shortly after the last meeting when the issue was raised. And we carefully reviewed the policies and the regulations, but we also reviewed the curriculum for the entire year, which wasn't as exciting as the gentleman just gave us just now, nor thankfully as long, but we got an overview. Hey, I'm a history geek. I love it. But we got to see the entire curriculum and also put it into context. And by the way, 180 days of class, 50-minute periods, we're talking 2 or 3 classes at issue. But we had an opportunity to look at everything. We looked at the curriculum, we looked at the policies. And I believe I can speak for the entire committee members that ultimately became clear to us that the curriculum, the year-long curriculum, as well as the classes in particular, fall well within the spirit and the wording of the policies and the regulations. I think we've all heard a lot in the paper, we've read, and it's an issue of a topic that is of wherever you go, you seem to be talking about it. But I'd like to kind of applaud the District of the Chathams and the community for keeping it as a civil discourse and raising it. And I'm thrilled to see you all here, and I expect to see every one of you here at the next meeting. I'm not kidding. We've got a picture. But this has been, and I think it's a great civics class to see that we can discuss this, and hopefully we'll hear positions pro and con, and you know, remember, you may not agree with what somebody says, but they have a right to say it. So I hope that during the public session, that when you speak, don't be chirping from the background. You got something to say, you say it at the mic. All right? And please don't boo somebody if you disagree with what they say. You can have an opportunity to come up and say it. It's been civil. It's been informative. I mean, I think we've all been telling our kids about it. So I think the issue raised, I think, is a good one because it brought you all here. So thank you. But getting back to the policy and the regulations, it falls squarely within it. The administration, the teachers, strictly comply with their ethical and moral obligations as teachers, and they're the best. What can I say?
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rich, I appreciate it. Just in the interest of time, I'm going to move on to the, now the administrative reports. So I'm unpausing and passing it back to you, Mike. We will get to public commentary, so please bear with us a moment.
Thank you on all counts and all ways, Ms. Weber. Just a couple of housekeeping items, really. The first is to repeat what we stated during the Open Finance Committee meeting earlier tonight. State aid is flat again for about the 6th year. And in each of those years, our enrollment has increased, so we're facing a challenge right now in that there's a gap between the number of students we want to educate optimally and the level of state funding that we're receiving. So that's a challenge. But there is a 100-day window that the governor has discussed in sort of inviting the legislature to revise the funding formula. So more to come if there are new developments there. We continue to monitor our incoming enrollment. Our incoming kindergarten numbers remain a little bit lower than where they were a year ago, and ditto our incoming first grade. So we anticipate there may be a decline finally this year at the lower levels. And then finally, I'm just going to mention this. We have only used one snow day so far this year, and I bring it up because it's likely that if we don't use one in the next 2 weeks, at the March 20th meeting, we probably will need to amend the calendar, because I would recommend, and we've had some preliminary discussion, that we extend the spring break by 1 day, so the day after Easter would become a day without school, and then we'd have 2 days around the Memorial Day weekend that would extend that weekend. So just keep it on the radar screen for 2 weeks from tonight, because we'd have to make a decision so people have time to make arrangements. And that's it for my report.
Excellent. Does anybody have any questions for Dr. L'Souza on any of his items? Nope, seeing none. We're going to move on to the business administrative report. Mr. DeQuilla?
Yes, two items for the report. Just a brief referendum project update. The two projects that were out to bid last week are
Is your mic?
just a brief referendum update. The two projects that are out to bid and the bids will be returned on March 29th are the work at the middle school around the auditorium. So it will be the revamping of the classrooms in preparation for the STEM edition. The other project that is out to bid is the 3 partial roofs.
Peter, excuse me, could you flip the switch on the top?
You
just
should've
want
led with that,
everything.
Tom.
That's, you know.
I'm sorry, I had to do it.
Okay, we're at the roof.
The other project that is out to bid, and again, the bids will be returned on March 29th, are the 3 partial roof projects at the high school, middle school, and at Lafayette School. The other item that is hitting the paper tomorrow for rebid is the Chatham Cougar Field Bleacher Project, which is phase 1 of the Cougar Field project for the referendum. The architects are nearing completion with the specifications for the high school auditorium, which will soon be put to bid. Shortly to follow that will be the middle school STEM edition and the Milton Avenue School edition. The other item I just wanted to report to the board, I received notice today that there is an application for a site approval from T-Mobile and Verizon, where they are planning to put a cell tower and cell equipment at the Gloria Dei Evangelical Lutheran Church, which is on Shunpike Road, right next to the Cougar Field. There is a planning board hearing on March 16th at 7:30 in this facility, so I don't know if the district would like representation to support or to oppose.
Does that impact Cougar Field?
No, all of the equipment will be on the church property, which, for record, is Block 95, Lot 18.01.
Oh, well, Block 19.
That is all I have.
Okay, I reserve the right to possibly, I just want more information before I say yes, send representation, so I'll take that offline. Any questions for Peter on any of the business items? I promise we're close. Quickly, the committee reports. I'm going to throw it over to Ms. Ciccarelli for personnel.
Personnel has not met since our last meeting. We are meeting this Wednesday.
Okay, very good. Over to Ms. Clark. She's going to recap Steve's entire presentation for us.
Curriculum has met. Curriculum committee met on February 27th. We had a closed meeting for that, and then we just had an open meeting here. The focus of the meeting was to review the teaching about religions in K-12 as it relates to our social studies curriculum. Mr. Mayor, the district social studies supervisor, provided committee with an in-depth presentation, and Ms. Lukasiewicz, a 7th grade social studies teacher, was in attendance as well to answer any questions the committee members had regarding the program of study, specifically at Chatham Middle School. As a result of the presentation, the review of the teaching about religion in social studies programs in grades K through 12, the committee agreed that no changes will be made to our social studies curriculum at any grade at this time.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody have any questions for Ms. Clark on curriculum, or Ms. Chase? No, seeing none. Mr. Gilfillan's not here for finance and facilities. We just had an open finance meeting just before this, and we're looking at the budget. And for those of you that weren't here, the recap of that is just quickly that our health insurance cost went up to 14.5%. Or, just covering salaries, we're going to have to cut somewhere. We've asked to just cover basic expenses and not add anything essentially. We're at 3.9% tax levy, and that's adding one counselor at the high school and maybe...
3.0.
Oh, what did I say?
3.9.
Oh, 3.0, okay. I thought it was 3.09.
3.09.
Oh, 09, sorry. Well, either way, I want you to get it lower than that. So let's not split hairs on that. Let's say 2 point something. So the task is, and it's not an easy one. I mean, I make light of that, and I don't really mean to, because at some point we're going to be starting to hit bone. So we're going to have to cut somewhere. We've asked the administration to go back and see if they can get that south of 3. But we've also asked for a list of what does that mean? What are we giving up if we get below that number? So more to come on that. I just wanted to give you a quick summary of what we talked about in the finance meeting and also the open finance meeting that was held at 6:30 today. So throwing it over to policy and planning, Mr. Connors.
As noted, we met on February 8th, 2017. We discussed three policies, one of which was the policy 2270, which was the religion in the schools, and the committee overwhelmingly deemed that it appropriate and that the district was in full compliance with it. We also reviewed the school policy rules and regulations regarding school visitors. They will have a first reading on March 6th and then a final reading hopefully on March 20th, 2017. That's it.
Okay, fantastic. So first reading today on that one. Perfect. Thank you very much, Mr. Connors. I appreciate it. We're just going to quickly go through the liaison reports. Mr. Connors for the borough.
Nothing to report as related to the board.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Clark for the township.
The only thing to report from the township is that the township typically has hosted a summer camp at Southern Boulevard in the summer. They will not be hosting that camp this summer at Southern Boulevard.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate it. Moving on to athletic boosters, Mr. Connors.
Unfortunately, I missed the last athletic booster meeting last week, but I can tell you that with 40 seconds left, it is tied. As soon as I get more information, I will relay that to you, even if I have to interject public policy.
Very
So
good.
if anyone else knows the score, feel free to shout it out at the mic.
Thank you very much. Performing arts, Mr. Arnott.
President, I'll be brief. First of all, I want to acknowledge and congratulate the Chatham High School Select Choir. I don't know if you guys know, February 14th, Valentine's Day, they showed up, Fox and Friends, they were invited on, they were behind the band Foreigner. On TV early in the morning. I think I'm on. All right, there we go. So the Chatham High School Select Choir on TV, February 14th, Fox and News, behind Foreigner, singing "I Want to Know What Love Is." Okay, I watched it live, so it was pretty incredible. And we wish to wish them congratulations. We want to wish congratulations to the middle school 8th grade band and glee club who performed at the lobby of the Prue Center at the New Jersey Devils game 2 days later on the 16th. The Breakfast with the Musicians Performing Arts Booster fundraiser was this past Saturday in the high school cafeteria. It was a great success. It's one of the boosters' biggest fundraisers, so we wish to thank all of you for supporting it. We want to remind you that March 23rd, 24th, and 25th is the production of the Chatham High School's The Addams Family, so look to buy your tickets and mark those days on your calendar. One more congratulations, Sean McCarty, who's the Chatham High School bass trombonist. He's been named the Mayo Center Brass Musician of the Month, and he deserves our congratulations as well. Finally, President, the next boosters meeting is Wednesday, April 5th at 7 in the Lafayette Faculty Room. The more people that get involved, the better. So please turn out.
Perfect. Thank you, Sal. I appreciate it. Ms. Kenny for Chatham Education Foundation?
Yes, tonight we'll be accepting an award from the Chatham Education Foundation for close to $1,200 for Chatham High School. That's going to go towards the Pulse Action Sports Grant.
That's tonight?
We're in the finance section.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. I thought they were here with a big check.
Yeah. Also that tickets are on sale for their annual spring fundraiser. The event is called Casino Royale, and it is a casino night that will be held at Fairmount Country Club on April 21st at 8 p.m. The event will feature gaming and online silent auction, beer, wine, food from local vendors, and a scotch tasting. Regular tickets are $100, and tickets for seniors and are $75, and tickets are available until March 31st, and until March 31st. All tickets purchased will include $50 in casino gaming chips. And you can buy tickets at chatham@foundation.org. Their next meeting is going to be on March 21st, and they will be announcing their new Board of Trustees at that time.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you, Ms. Kenny. Finally, I'm sorry, Ms. Cronin, last but not least, did the district cabinet?
Yes, and we talked about the 7th grade history curriculum.
Oh, do you want to recap that, or you're
No, I
good?
think that we've covered that enough.
Okay, all right, we'll take a pass on that. So I would like to make a motion. We still don't have the Magic 5 for the December 19th, so we'll put that off. I'd like to pass a motion for the February 6th public session minutes.
First, or second, I guess.
You could be second. I think I was first. Peter, do you want to do it separately? Or do
Yes,
we?
please.
Okay, so February 6th, could you do the roll call?
Mr. Arnott,
Yes.
Ms. Chigarelli,
Yes.
Ms. Clark,
Yes.
Mr. Connors,
Yes.
Ms. Cronin,
Yes.
Ms. Kenny,
Yes.
Mr. Valenti, Ms. Weber.
Yes.
That meeting minutes pass 8-0.
Excellent. Moving on to February 16th, both the private and the public session.
Second.
Yes.
Is
Peter?
anyone else here?
Need instructions, this is a reminder from Ms. Clark and Ms. Cronin. Mr. Arnott,
Yes.
Ms. Chigarelli,
Yes.
Ms. Clark,
Abstain.
Mr. Connors,
Yes.
Ms. Cronin,
Abstain.
Ms. Kenny,
Yes.
Mr. Valenti, and Ms. Weber.
Yes.
Those minutes pass 6-0-2.
Excellent. Very good. Thank you. Okay, so we're at our first opportunity for public commentary, and again, just a reminder, if you would just be very respectful of each other, and just to get a sense, typically there's 5 people in the room, so there's no limit. Obviously, tonight we're going to have to limit that. Ms. Clark has agreed to help me as long as her phone time or her battery doesn't wear out. But can I just get a general sense of, you're not locked in, who may want to get up to the microphone to
We
speak?
want to hear from you, so don't be shy.
Yeah, and you're not locked in either direction. I just wanted to,
And we don't have a curfew, so it's okay.
and I have
Sit
snacks.
down.
Maybe 15.
We have snacks.
Okay.
The only requirement is that if you want to public speak, you do need to sign in on the sheet that's at the podium, please.
Okay, so very good. So we're going to try and limit it, I'm sorry, to 2, try and keep it to 2 or 3 minutes. As you can see, there's, yeah, Michelle will try and give us a little heads up, but I'm so happy to see this. That's power. So if you don't mind, again, please be respectful of each of the speakers. And again, typically it's not a back and forth. This is the same spiel I give at every meeting. This is not an opportunity to get into detailed back and forth. It's for you to make a comment, any compliments you want to throw our way, whatever you want to use your time for. Thank you, Rick. But again, we're not going to have an opportunity to go back and forth in detailed conversation. But with that said, I'll turn off my mic and pass it over to the first public speaker. If you could introduce yourself and where you're from, that would be fantastic.
Hello, my name is Molly Kasich, and I'm from Chatham, from the township. I'm a student at Chatham High School, and I'm the president of the Young Progressives Club. And I'm here to be a voice for the student body of Chatham High School. I started collecting signatures on a letter in support of the school board and the superintendent at around 10 a.m. Last Friday. My goal was to get around 60 or 70 signatures. Today, we have about 423. That's about a third of our high school. A third of students in the last 2 school days put politics aside, put individual stress aside, and assured me that they really liked learning about world religions and feel less globally isolated as a result. I think it's important to note that many students, including myself, remember the world religions lesson from middle school and recall that they did not feel indoctrinated at all. If people, and a lot of students said to me, if people are convinced that the video shown has unclear intentions, the goal should be to find a new method of teaching the lesson and not to eliminate the teaching of all world religions completely. This is because overall most students agree that changing the curriculum to exclude learning about Islam and the other world religions would be very damaging to their intellectual, academic, and social lives once they leave this place. A lot of kids even asserted that we didn't go deep enough. There are still so many things they want to learn about Jews and Buddhists and Muslims and Sikhs. It's not lost on students that learning about different cultures and religions is important to understanding the world and increasing acceptance. And frankly, in the broader context of our social climate today, where Islam is often mistaken as a violent and oppressive religion, it's extremely beneficial to educate and to remind people that Islam is a religion rooted in peace, acceptance, respect, and love for your neighbor. In fact, my personal experience is that when reading excerpts from the Quran in world history this year, a lot of principles and values were exactly the same ones that I remember seeing in Hebrew school growing up and ones I see once a week at the Lutheran church where I work. Learning about different people's cultures exposes similarities between theirs and ours, which a third of students at the high school agree has a very unifying and calming effect as we begin our adult lives. So this was, I'm speaking basically to say thank you to Mike for being Mike.
Be like Mike. We should get t-shirts.
Okay. Sorry. The floor is yours.
Okay. Hello, my name is Julia Contorno, and I'm a current senior at Chatham High School, and I'm from Chatham Township. I've been in the Chatham school system since kindergarten and have almost completed my time as a Chatham student. This being said, I have experienced a plethora of history and English classes, exposing me to religions and cultures that differ from my own, including AP Economics, AP World History, AP US History, AP Art History, and AP Government and Politics. I'm a Catholic, and I've been a youth leader at Corpus Christi Parish since I was a freshman, and yet learning about Islam, Hinduism, Judaism, and other religions have not changed that at all. Removing Islam or any world religion or culture from an SDOC curriculum will be doing the students of Chatham a disservice. Next year, I'll be going to college in New York City, one of the most diverse communities in our entire country. I don't get to pick my roommate, and it is inevitable that I will be meeting fellow students that are from different cultures or even different countries. The School District of the Chathams has properly prepared me to interact, respect, and understand the rituals, preferences, and lifestyles of students from other cultures that I will be spending the next 4 years with, and hopefully beyond that. Likewise, being taught about other cultures from a young age in Chatham has not just made me tolerant. It has made me open and eager to learn more about the people and cultures around me. Tolerance is one thing, but acceptance is another. As one of the best school systems in the state and the country, it is our duty as parents, teachers, administrators, citizens, and fellow students to ensure that when students leave Chatham, they are not only bright, but have a broad scope of the world around them and are global citizens.
Thank you. Thank you, Julie.
Hi, my name is Sally Allen, and I'm in the township with an 8th grader and a 3rd grader. And to work with what Molly was saying earlier, a group of parents prepared a letter to our Board of Education, our superintendent, our assistant superintendent, teachers, and administrators as follows. We are parents of students in the school district of the Chathams. All of us support our assistant superintendent, Board of Education, teachers, and administrators who develop and deliver the curricula that enable our students to achieve learning success and help them grow into critical thinkers and global citizens. At the last Board of Education meeting and recently a nationally televised news show, claims were made that our 7th grade social studies curriculum subjects students to Islamic indoctrination. These claims are misleading and omit key points regarding the goals, objectives, and content of the district's overall K through 12 and 7th grade curricula. As parents, we are not motivated by politics, but strive for the continued success of our district and its students. We do not purport to have the expertise in education or detailed understanding to make demands on how the state of New Jersey's learning objectives are delivered. We work with knowledgeable professionals who have been hired by the district to effectively educate and meet the standard for quality public school education in the state of New Jersey. We support the district's social studies curricula and the inclusion of the key tenets of religions as they relate to the areas of study. We ask our educators to continue to teach the basic tenets of religions practiced by billions of people to help students foster understanding, gain knowledge, and develop the critical thinking skills to someday help solve these world issues. The recent media coverage has brought much negative attention to our schools and threats to our community. We appreciate your time, energy, and work in addressing the concerns raised by the community. We will continue to advocate relentlessly for the inclusion of religion as it pertains to the studies of culture, history, music, art, science, and geography. And it's signed by 332 parents of Chatham students.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Sally.
Thank you.
How many times did you try and give up your chair?
I did my best.
You did it, and I just wanted to acknowledge the effort. You were a trooper.
Yeah. Thank you for allowing me to speak, Board of Education.
I'm sorry, could you introduce yourself? I apologize.
Oh, yeah, sorry. My name is Luca Batlin. I'm from the borough, and I'm a freshman in the Chatham High School. Now, before I really get into things, there are a few people I'd like to thank. Firstly, I'd like to thank the people who raised this issue, the moms, and the Board of Education for looking into it, because it's always important to reflect and take a look at ourselves and our practices in order to improve our standards of education for our students. I'd also like to thank the teachers who came here in support of our school system. Some of them are my former teachers, and I'm glad to see them again, but I don't know if they're glad to see me again. And I'd like to thank all of them for coming out in support. And I'd also like to thank all the parents who came out here in support or in against the current issue. And I'd also like to thank Mr. Mayor and Mr. Lukasiewicz for giving me flashbacks of the 6th, 7th, and 8th grade history studies curriculum. And also for handing out that very nice 6th grade world religion study guide for my sister over there. I'm sure she'll make great use of it. But on a serious note, I'd like to say that I express full support for what the school board and the school system is doing for our students. Because the first thing man made after he made fire and tools was religion. It shows that religion was one of the first things created. It shows how important religion is in all of our lives back then and today. And it shows how integral religion is to our lives and how we live them. Without religion, there would be no context to any of our actions. It's impossible to understand today's world and politics without religion. Conflicts in the Middle East that span centuries have many roots in religion and politics. Our teachers, who are some of the best in the state, always do their best to teach us properly and in an unbiased fashion. Now, I actually did enjoy the history curriculum, and I'd like to say personally that I never felt that I was being proselytized or told to convert or be any certain one way, and I fully support the district and the teachers in their teaching of world religions. Thank you.
Thank you, Luca. Hello, Lori.
I'm writing as fast as I can. Okay. Hi, my name is Lori DiBiase, and I'm the president of the Chatham Education Association, representing approximately 500 teachers and education support professionals of the school district of the Chathams. I'm here to say that the Chatham Education Association is unwavering in our support of the board-approved curriculum. Daily lessons are created by individual teachers and approved by supervisors. The curriculum is created largely by supervisors with teacher input and approved by the Board of Education. Our curriculum serves to promote a lifelong love of learning and to develop curious and inquisitive minds. Whether we are teaching and discussing science, math, language arts, the arts, or world cultures, we as teachers are encouraging our students to broaden their minds and be open to new ideas. As the proud parent, also, of 3 graduates of the Chatham schools, I have always been very pleasantly surprised at how our students deal with the complexities of the diverse world beyond the borders of Chatham. They seek to understand others and lead others, again, in a very diverse world. I believe that we serve them well. The Chatham Education Association stands solidly behind the curriculums approved by the Board of Education of the School District of the Chathams.
Thank you, Lori. Thank you, Lori.
Good evening. My name is Lori Reed, and before I begin, I want to say I agree 100% with everything that's been said tonight. And Dr. LaSousa, my 4 kids remember you very fondly. Good evening. My name is Lori Reed. My husband and I are both graduates of Chatham Township High School. Our 4 children have gone through the Chatham schools along with 2 sets of their cousins. Our last graduated in 2010. I no longer have a dog in this fight, but rather come to this discussion as a Chatham taxpayer. Americans live in a free and open society. Since public education began, outside forces with various agendas have tried to control the curriculum. American parents on a state and local level must remain vigilant to assure our kids get an unbiased and factual education. I have been following the issues of school curriculum for many years by the reading of both sides of the issues. I am completely for teaching the basics of all world religions, but I call upon the Board of Education and the school district to be extra careful of the sources for some of the material for world culture classes. Florida, South Carolina, Texas, Tennessee, Wisconsin, California, and many New Jersey districts have crossed the fine line between basic facts and indoctrination or proselytizing under the guise of Common Core. Examples include requiring trips to mosques where the girls are separated and made to wear headscarves with the boys kneeling in prayer in the front. Some textbooks have questioned whether the Holocaust was actually a political scheme created to influence public emotion. A textbook currently used in one New Jersey district lumps Jews and lepers in the same sentence. Other state districts require making prayer rugs, repeating the Islamic conversion prayer, and kneeling to the Muslim call to prayer. I am not saying that any of the above has been introduced in Chatham, but we must remain informed. The sources of the material must be fully vetted by more than just one person. Quite a few of these textbooks have been written by Islamic scholars with pro-Hamas and Muslim Brotherhood ties. I call upon the Board of Education and social studies heads in all grade levels to be informed and do your research. Any subject that could cause this much of an issue must be handled in a careful manner, and all concerned should be openly responsive to both parent and non-parent taxpayers. As for the controversy that has arisen in Chatham over this, no one is listening or understanding exactly what Libby and Nancy are saying. They have a legitimate concern shared by tens of thousands of other American parents and have been excoriated for it. The name-calling by those with opposing views has been nothing short of bullying. Example, calling Nancy and Libby poor white trash on Facebook, among other things, has been nothing short of shameful. These responses put Chatham in a much worse light than a concerned citizen asking a question. Thank you.
Thank you, Lori. Jane, you're a regular here, so I'm going to have to remind you, you're not given the... Tonight, we just can't do unlimited. Jane is at every meeting.
I should get an extra minute because
true,
I do come to every meeting.
Jane is at every meeting, but I'm gonna ask that you be conscious of the time.
We'll give it to you next meeting.
Jane Devlin, Chatham Township, Aunt Jane. I would like to go on record that I have been supportive of the School District of the Chathams administration and board on a range of issues, including but not limited to their curriculum and policies, which are appropriate and in no way irregular. I put my convictions and opinions in letters to the editor published in the Chatham Courier and TAP. Those letters are memorialized, so I won't read them into the record tonight. In my opinion, any discussion or debate of politics or religion which is historical or current or cultural context and which is age-appropriate, broad, and ecumenical are under the purview of a public school education. But what I want to add now, tonight, is the following. I urge everyone here tonight who felt passionate enough about this topic to extend this interest and energy beyond the 7th grade curriculum debate over world religions and to be active participants in the monthly Board of Ed meetings. So often, folks, however well-intended, run with half information, make interpretations instead of respond to objective information, and go with even hearsay. When communication breaks down, everyone talks at once, no one is heard, and dialogue stalls. The board members are dedicated volunteers, and the school district administration is outstanding. Never once have I experienced the board or administrators to conduct themselves in any way other than to preserve and advance policies, practices, and decisions designed to serve the best interest of each student and all students. It shouldn't have taken a controversial hotbed topic to bring everyone out tonight, for many of us here, including myself, to gather in support of the board and administration. Come when the meetings are typical, dare when I say uneventful or even boring. Get involved, be involved, stay involved. Thank you to the board for tonight's clarification and detailed program. I proffer that we should put this contentiousness behind us as a community. Accept in good faith the curriculum is balanced, appropriate, and aligned with New Jersey core standards. I can't imagine how much more the board could do to allay these concerns. We all fancy ourselves, in closing, to be enlightened, accepting of diversity, quick to say we are here tonight because we are a tolerant group. But if we take this 7th grade curriculum topic, which for many reasons, among them the media coverage, took on a life of its own, and continue to let it divide our community and our schools, pitting neighbor against neighbor, then we are not tolerant, we are hypocritical.
Thank you, Jane. Thank you very much.
Hi, my name is Stacy Ewald, and I had a bit of a lengthy speech, but anything I say would pale in comparison to our Chatham students that came up. They did a phenomenal job, and I am so impressed every time I get to hear our kids speak or perform or present. And I just want to say thank you to those kids. They did a phenomenal job. I've been volunteering. My daughter's in college now, and I've been volunteering actively in this community since she was in kindergarten. And every time I step in and I come to a Board of Ed meeting, I participate in a classroom, I talk to an educator, I am always impressed. Their care for our curriculum and for our children is amazing. It's tops bar none. So I want to say thank you to our Board of Ed, thank you to our superintendent, our administrators and our educators for the wonderful job that you've done. I agree wholeheartedly with what the policy committee and the curriculum committee has decided how to proceed in the Board of Ed. And I think I have a whole bunch of people who agree with me. I mean, if we're anybody who's in agreement with our this decision, I would appreciate if you could please stand up. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Stacy. Jane, you don't get a second round.
No,
Out of the line.
I'm fine.
Rachel said you can have 3 turns next time.
Hi, I'm Jessica Romeo with the Township, and I'm simply here to say that over the weekend, a bunch of us got together at a little community event and just put together a bunch of little thank you notes and cards for everybody from Dr. LaSousa, down to Mr. A at Washington Avenue School. So we have a whole pile of thank you notes and love notes to our educators, and I'll be delivering them to all the schools this week.
Thank you.
I didn't hear you mention the board thank you.
Oh, we have a folder for the Board of Ed. We do.
Oh, there's a sign. There you go.
Thank you. You can talk anytime you want there with the sign.
We apologize. Sorry.
Hi, Casey Del Sandro, Chatham Borough. So, I'm an 8th grader in the Chatham Middle School, and I feel that the public has been being misinformed about what has been being taught in the middle school. On Tucker Carlson tonight, the two mothers said that the students in the school were not being taught other religions, which is false. In the year before, we were taught about Christianity, Judaism, Islam, Hinduism, Buddhism, Taoism, Confucianism, and legalism. Also, when the mother said that they thought that the video was trying to recruit their children to Islam at the last meeting, I in no way felt that I was being brought to Islam when I watched that video myself a year ago. I am a Christian. I was a Christian yesterday. I am a Christian today. I will be a Christian tomorrow, and I will be a Christian in a week, and a month, and a year from now. Nothing's going to change that. When I watched that video, my 7th grade teacher said that I want to show you this video about Islam so I can tell you what it is really about, and not all the bad things that people in the world are saying is about. Thank you.
Thank you, Casey. Thank you very much. If you didn't recognize him, he was one of the stars in the play of The Sound of Music. He played Captain Von Trapp. And he had to sing Edelweiss as a solo. Enough said. I apologize.
Hi, my name is Donna Lyons, and I've lived in Chatham Township for more than 23 years. Both of my children went through the Chatham school system and are now in college. First, I would like to say thank you to Superintendent LaSousa and the Board of Education, who have done such an excellent job of ensuring that our children receive an outstanding education. I am embarrassed to say that up until recently, I took it for granted that Chatham had one of the best school systems in the state and the country, and I apologize for not showing up sooner to thank you. I was shocked when I recently received a text message from my son, who is in college, telling me that Chatham schools have been in the news. As an alumnus, he was very distressed that the curriculum and the environment in the Chatham schools were not being portrayed accurately or fairly. I am speaking today because I have a dream that we can create a world where children don't get bullied and people don't hate each other because of their differences, but we celebrate them instead. A world where wars are obsolete. And I believe to my core that the only way that this will happen is through broad-based education for the next generation. Knowledge leads to understanding, and understanding is the path to peace. Ignorance leads to hate and does not serve the greater good. I am proud to say that when my children, who spent their days at Southern Boulevard, Lafayette School, Chatham Middle School, and Chatham High School, when they meet a person, they don't see color, race, religion, sexual orientation, disability, or any other label. They just see a person whom they judge on their own merits. Yes, that comes from what they learn at home, but it also comes from the education that they get at school every day. Because of their education here, my children have open minds and valuable critical thinking skills. They have the ability to research and weigh information, form an opinion, and back up their opinion with a sometimes infuriatingly good argument. Thank you, Chatham Schools. I just want to say that for all of these reasons, I would like to commend and support the Board of Education for standing up and making balanced, considered decisions that are in the best interest of our children and that gives them the broadest based education possible. Chatham is not an ignorant and hateful community, and it warms my heart to see everybody here supporting the Board of Ed. Thank you so much for your service.
Thank you, Donna.
Hi everyone, my name is Jen Rowland. I live in the township, and I just wanted to share my experience raising my family in Chatham because I think it's a little bit of a unique one, and it might bring a different perspective. My then husband and I bought our house in Chatham in 2003, and 2004 I had my daughter, my first child, and 2006 I had a son, and let me check my notes because it's blurry. In February 2000, well, wait till you hear. In February 2008, we received the long-awaited call from Dyfus, New Jersey, to say that a baby was available because we had signed up to be foster parents. So after answering a few questions, we agreed to take this baby from Newark, New Jersey, and a few hours later, he was going to be at our home. And probably about 15 minutes after that call, I was informed by my doctor that I was indeed pregnant. And 7 months later, that Susie was born. And those are my little twins because they're 10 months apart and they're in the same grade. And fast forward to 2011, we finally adopted Sean. It took about 3 years. It was quite a journey. And we were about a month after we officially adopted him, and we got the call to take his sister, who was 18 months old at the time, and we said, yes, absolutely. And a few hours later, Unique was her birth name, and now Nikki joined our family. So 6 years later, here we are, living in Chatham. And I'll be honest when I say that there were many times that I questioned, should I raise this family in Chatham? There isn't a lot of diversity here, let's be honest. Am I doing the right thing? But it didn't take very long for me to, meet more people, get the kids in the school system before that was not even a thought in my head anymore, because the amazing people that I met through the schools and the funny stories on back to school night where people thought Sean and Susie were twins, and I'm like, they're not twins, here's their picture, and it was pretty funny. I just wanted to say that now living in this community 17, how many years, I'm honored and privileged to live here, and I can't even say enough, not even about my neighbors and friends, but I can't even scratch the surface about the teachers who have not only embraced my children and special ed and all that, but our entire family. And most of them are here tonight, a lot of the teachers, and some of them who I've met, for the first time at a parent-teacher conference. I'm a working mother, I travel, I've been around the world. And I don't spend a lot of time at the school, but when you have your first parent-teacher conference meeting with your teacher, and you wind up at the end and you're hugging each other and you're crying, then, it's a special place. So I just want everybody to, let's move forward and not backwards, and embracing diversity and what makes us different, and let's just try to come together again.
Thank you. Thank you, Jen.
Hello, I'm Samantha Eckert. I live in the borough, and I'm not going to cry this time, Mike. Had a district cabinet meeting the other day, and some of you in the room who were there know I got a little bit emotional. I am not reading my own words tonight. I am reading the words of someone who did not feel comfortable standing up here. She did not feel safe standing up here. So I am reading these words for her, and they're my words. They're my words, they're her words, they're many of the words that you all have been thinking and have been talking about in this community. We are Chatham, so her words are my words, and I'm going to read her statement to you. I wanted to address 3 points. Some negative press on our schools, bullying because of being different, and support for the Board of Education and the administrative staff. In recent days, there has been some negative attention on Chatham and the school district. As a result, the CMS PTO site was flooded with hateful sentiments, which caused some of the PTO pages to be shut down and phone lines to be disconnected. There were also threats against the Board of Education, teachers, and superintendent. Now there's a growing angst among students and parents of the school district and community at large. Free speech is a powerful tool that can benefit all of us if used mindfully. It can get rid of ignorance and hate. Instead, it can be used to embrace what the world has to offer us. Let us choose love and compassion. I am an immigrant. When I first came to America at 8 years of age, almost 40 years ago, I was bullied and picked on because I was from another country. I was told to go back where I came from. I was called the N-word. I was simply scared to go to school. Although the bullying was addressed and stopped, I can still remember how I felt. It was not fun. I felt isolated. I felt that I did something wrong. I thought we had changed over the course of 40 years. I guess I am wrong. Living in fear as a child, teacher, parent minority, transgender, or any other different is just not acceptable. This is not who we are. As parents, we need to set an example for our children by embracing new cultures and learning to understand them, not exclude them. If we open our hearts, we might just learn something. In the course of my 40 years of living in America, I have learned a great deal. After having a child, my perspective on life changed. I wanted to find the safest place to live, the best school system, the best neighborhoods, and so on. I am sure this resonates with many of you here. After traveling for some years and having seen many of these type of places, in the end, I decided to choose Chatham. And since there is no such thing as perfect, I believe the school district of the Chathams is one of the most wonderful, nurturing districts around. I have never met such caring teachers. Dr. LaSousa and his team provide our children with the most relevant and up-to-date information, an education that will equip our children to be leaders of the future. A future where
Samantha,
diversity,
if you could,
Yep, a future where diversity will
just need to
exist
be
in every
fair.
facet of our life. I wholeheartedly support the Board of Education and school district to continue to eradicate the face of hate through a culturally diverse education. Finally, I would like to leave with this quote: "In politics and in life, ignorance is not a virtue." President Obama.
Thank you. I just need to remind speakers, please be mindful of the timing signs. We're just trying to be fair to everybody, so thank you.
Sure. My name's Kate McCabe. I live on 48 Kings Road in Chatham. Mr. Mayor, I could listen to you talk all night, so thank you very much. I'm a former history teacher, and I'm currently a principal of a McNair Academic High School in Jersey City, which is an incredibly diverse and fantastic school. And it's been very odd for me over the last few weeks to have the cognitive dissonance of leading a school where over 40% of the students are Muslim and coming home to a debate about whether or not Islam should be in our schools. It's been very difficult, and for me, I've been very sensitive to the students to make sure that they know that they're comfortable in my building. And we had a multicultural day a few weeks ago, and the students came dressed in national garb, and it was gorgeous, fantastic, and just the most amazing thing you've ever seen kids do outside of Chatham. I was struck, though, as I was standing on the steps after school, and all the kids had changed, particularly the Muslim boys. And one child stayed in his national garb, and the kids were like, "I'm not walking home with you. We're going to get shot. You look like a terrorist." I think it's important in this debate to recognize that we're not here to support the teaching of Buddhism or Taoism. We're here to support the teaching of Islam. And it's incredibly, not indoctrination, but the principles of it. And in this time and in this country right now, it's important that we don't allow anyone to demonize that religion. Because in that way, you're dehumanizing the children who believe it. You're dehumanizing their families. You're taking away their traditions, their pride. I've seen their parents be absolutely gleeful at what their children have accomplished. One of my students is named Allah. Very difficult for me to cheer for him on the basketball court because I was like, oh, that's God. Okay, but I got over it because everybody else was cheering, so I had to as well. Thank you very much for resolving the cognitive dissonance that I've had over the last few weeks. Thank you very much for raising this question, because now I know how inclusive and how supportive and how wondrous Chatham is. Knowing that the students don't wear hijabs, Chatham High, at least not all of them, very few if any. And so they have the opportunity to learn from their teachers and their families about how to care for each other. Thank you.
Thank you, Kate. Thank you,
Hey.
Kate. Sorry.
No worries. I'm going to be fast, so you'll like me. You don't even have to get a sign up. I'm Bob Higgins. I'm from the township. Wanted to bring up something. We've heard a lot of emotional and passionate people speaking today.
I'm sorry,
and
Mr. Higgins, did you introduce yourself?
Yes. I did.
Oh, I missed it. I was laughing at your joke. I apologize.
Can I do it again?
No, I'm good.
And this is more a question or statement of function and pragmatism. So as Mr. Mayor mentioned, lots of notes came in. As Sam Eckert just said in her speech, many, many more came in once this was put on the national spotlight. Thousands and thousands of notes to the CMS board, on Facebook, all over the place. Many very threatening against actual individuals that are sitting in this room, which can be scary, and threatening to the point that the school board decided to put 2 police officers at the school every day last week, give or take, sometimes 1, but police officers every day at the school.
A presence.
You just talked about the fact that you're down to the bone on your budget. Police aren't free, so security isn't free. There is, I guess my question is there a level of accountability for this? Is there a plan for this? And what is the impact to your bones that you're hitting right now with the fact that we are, having this additional staff to have security that we didn't know that we needed until 2 weeks ago?
Okay, thank you. We'll track it. Thank you.
Good evening. Can you hear me? Can you hear me now? Yes. Okay. Good evening. My name is Kanchana Leung. I'm a resident of the township. I have 3 children in the school district, 2 at Southern and 1 soon to be at Southern, but probably too soon for my taste. I had much longer remarks prepared for tonight, but in the interest of brevity and getting people out of here, I'll just offer one perspective on my view of things and really just adding my voice to support the board and the school district in your choices in the curriculum. So one of the things that I do in my spare time is I volunteer as an alumni interviewer for a couple of top 10 universities. And the reason that I do that is, one of the reasons I really like to do it is because I feel like it gives me a window into what my own children will go through as they go through the school. And I interview a lot of kids in the community, not just from here, kids from private school, public school, parochial school, sometimes boarding school, and I am always happy to have a Chatham High School student because the caliber of student is so high. The outcomes are measurable, as Mr. Mayor put up on the board there. I think it's something that we as a community should be proud of, and it's something that I certainly see when I interview kids. Sometimes I get home and I feel just overwhelmed by how good the students are. They're not just strong academically, but they care about the world around them outside of this community, outside this microcosm. And I know certainly when I look to see, who would be a good fit for the school, I think, what would it be like to share a dorm room with this person? What would it be like to have a discussion in the classroom with this person? Are they intellectually curious? Are they intellectually honest? Because certainly they're all entitled to their opinions, and that's not something I judge an applicant on, but they're not entitled to their own facts. If they have an opinion, I like to hear, well, what's the basis for your opinion? And I feel like Chatham is doing a really great job. I was really interested in the presentation. I thank Mr. Mayor, and I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly, Ms. Lakasowicz. I will speak social studies with you anytime, anywhere, any place, for any reason. Mike keep being Mike, board keep being the board, and thanks again.
Hi, my name is Tara Burke. I live in the borough, and I'm here tonight because before any of this came up in the last meeting, I actually was asked to help my 7th grade son study for his social studies test on this topic, which has become very unusual because now that he's in 7th grade, he doesn't often need my help. So we went through all of the material, and as we discussed it, I was so impressed at how I was having an adult conversation about religion with my 7th grader. And we're Catholic, and I went to Catholic school my whole life, including college. And it was similar to classes that I had taken starting in like 4th or 5th grade. But even compared to what I took in high school, it was so well done and so comprehensive. And we talked for a while, and he asked some questions, and we sat and we talked about how the monotheistic religions came from Abraham. We went to a religious encyclopedia I happen to have in the house. We looked it up. And I was just so impressed with how well the school board and the teachers and the social studies department put together this material, and I was so pleased that my son has this knowledge. And I think it's so important in this day and age to have that knowledge. And I just wanted to offer my support to the school board and for Mike to keep being Mike. So thank you.
Thank you,
Good
Tara.
evening. My name is Samir Zoshi. I've been a resident of Chatham Township for 18 years, coming up in May. I have always felt welcome here, and in fact, I welcome some of the newer residents here into my town. So, over the last month, I was wondering if it is still the place that I came here 18 years ago, and if there was any doubt that was left at the end of this discussion, it was dispelled by the presentation of the two social sciences teachers. Thanks a lot. Again, this is my first meeting, first presence at the board, and I know Mike very well, but because I thought that everything was going all well, but I'm glad I came, and I'm proud to be a citizen of Chatham. Thanks.
Thank you, Samir. I'm finding that Chatham's a very funny community. Mr. Heap is also a regular, so I'm going to remind him as well. He doesn't get extra time this particular meeting, but we promise to give him extra time at the next meeting. But he's a regular as well.
Yes, Bill Heap from Chatham Borough. I am the 5th of the 5 people who usually show up. I was going to lay into you about the headquarters, but I'll put that off. I have one comment to make. I am one of those people who will have the enormous pleasure of going through my life without ever visiting Facebook. I do have a flip phone. I've never tweeted, and I've never looked at a tweet. If I had the power to do one thing, I would ban social media. It allows people to talk at one another, not with one another, and it's incredibly corrosive. This is why this evening is so great. People are here to listen, people are here to speak, and it would be nice if many of you would come out to all of these meetings. But it would be nice also if you would unplug every once in a while and get away from the social media. It's just really corrosive. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Heap. Thank you. And for those who don't recognize Mr. Heap, he's the JC's Christmas tree sale guy, so. Thank you, Bill.
Hi, I'm Beverly LaPuma from the township. I think I'm a resident historian. I'm here 44 years. But my concerns, I know the school does a very good job. I know that the students who spoke tonight are phenomenal. I'm concerned about the fact that there's any heckling or there's anything for people who have a difference of opinion on the issue. I think we need to be supportive of free speech and what people have to say. I'm also concerned that Tucker Carlson put this on TV and indicated that our superintendent declined to talk about it at the same time the women did. And, you know, I just kind of think that maybe that is something that also needs to be looked at for future kinds of things that may arise. And I think that it would be helpful to kind of confront things right up front.
And just to clarify, the TV show reached out to Dr. LaSousa maybe 2 hours before airtime, gave him a 2-hour time limit. He answered with 10 or 15 minutes, and they refused to put his side of the story on. So it's not, he didn't refuse.
Well, what he said, then something should be sent in about
There were
that,
many
because
things that were patently false.
What they said was he declined
That's incorrect.
Yeah, well, but the thing is, I would have walked down water and gone and said something, but that's my nature.
But if they don't let you in the door, you can't, it's just not a true statement, but continue.
No, and I just kind of, the disappointing thing is that when people have a difference of opinion, you got to appreciate and respect that and not bully them.
Thank you. We make it very clear that anybody can speak their mind. We're a very gracious host. We sit here. We don't have a time limit. Like I said, most people, tonight we have a time limit. Trust me, typically, no time limit. We're begging for speakers. I often drag Mr. Heap up just because he's in the audience.
And Jill, if I could mention, I thought tonight there were several, there was diversity of opinion delivered by the audience. Thankfully, I'm very grateful and very proud for all the support that we did receive, but I'm also proud for the way everyone was respectful. I didn't hear any bullying. I didn't hear any cajoling or booing. I thought it was a very respectful evening. So,
thank you. Does anybody else have any? Typically, what we do now is move on to the regular agenda. I just want to double check that there's nobody else that wants to speak during the first public commentary session. There's another session at the end after we complete board business, but I don't want to hold people up, and although you're all welcome to stay, I hope you do, but I understand if you don't. So what we're going to do, just so you understand, what we do now is we go on to the regular agenda. We talk about all of the action items that we discuss in committee. We go on to board business, and then we have a second opportunity for public commentary. I would encourage the students, though, to take the opportunity to just, absolutely. So we're just going to pause a minute to give folks an opportunity.
They lost.
The basketball team lost at the high school. They lost. All right, sorry, we're going to call it back to order.
Sorry. Thank you.
That was great. Thank you, everybody who came out and spoke. It's really quite a testament.
And thank you for staying.
Thank you for staying. We really appreciate it.
The second part usually goes faster.
It goes much faster.
We actually give treats to those who stay.
I have Jolly Ranchers. I have a Jolly Rancher.
Okay.
So, again, thank you very much. We're going to move on to the action items now. We're going to start with personnel. Ms. Ciccarelli, would you mind? Smith and here?
I would not mind.
Oh, sorry.
I'd like to move action items A1 through, hold on, I'm not really prepared right now, through A20 on our regular agenda.
Second.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is Peter not here to call it out?
Did you get that second?
Oh, thanks.
We have a second. I was waiting for Peter.
Yep, we're gonna look over, and just so folks know, the agendas are posted on Friday night. So if it seems like it appears that we go through them a little quickly, we've read them over the weekend. We've had some time to absorb them. If we've had any, really intricate questions, we bring it up. We might shoot an email over to one of the supervisors that's in charge of it, and then if it requires more conversation, we'll bring it up at the public session. But I just didn't want you to think we're breezing through it that quickly. We've actually had these all weekend, and if you want to look at them ahead of time, they're posted on Friday by probably close of business, maybe 5 o'clock. So that was my public service announcement. By 3 o'clock, show off. I was giving you a 2-hour window.
Close of business is before 5 o'clock on Friday.
So, Peter, just to catch you up, Ann moved items 1 through 20 on personnel. Mr. Connor seconded it.
The only correction I have to make is on item A20, The next to last item, Ms. Lisa Forte, her travel is, I tried to be as prudent as I could, but it is $295.
It's also funded by Title III.
Oh, okay.
He's Title III funded.
Excellent.
Okay, that's even better.
Beat that.
Okay, awesome.
I think Ms. Chase just raised you. Does anybody have any questions on personnel? And just for those that don't know, Ms. Grant is the director of our personnel, sitting right here in the on the front table. No? No additional questions? Mr. DeQuilla, would you mind?
Not at all. Agenda items A20 with A20 being corrected. Ms. Arnott?
Yes.
Ms. Chicarelli?
Yes.
Ms. Clark?
Yes.
Mr. Connor?
Yes.
Ms. Cronin?
Yes.
Ms. Kenny?
Yes.
Mr. Valenti? Yes. And Ms. White?
Yes.
Agenda items passed 8-0.
Very good. Thank you very much. Moving on to finance and facilities, and Mr. Gilfillan is not here, and I must apologize publicly to Mr. Arnott. I called an audible earlier and asked him to move the action items for finance, so if you wouldn't mind, Mr. Arnott.
Sure, if you would permit me, I'd like to move items B1 through B17.
I'll second.
Before we vote on it, I just want to acknowledge that there's a couple of more donations here. There's a $1,000 donation from the Fidelity Charitable, the Ruth Family Scholarship for the Performing Arts. We also received an $1,190 grant from the Chatham Education Foundation that Lata mentioned earlier. And then finally, there was an SBS PTO donation in the amount of $5,000 to be used to create a book room and professional development room for the teachers. So I wanted to announce that we received those.
Excellent, thank you. And I see Mr. Franz's donation of $500 for the buddy bench, which he's been waiting for. Mr. Franz was a past board member that just left us. And he and I both work for Bank of America Merrill Lynch, and they donate money for the hours that we volunteer to the organization. So that's why when I quote, oh, the board gives hundreds of hours, I'm not saying that figuratively. I'm saying that literally because I have to track them for a number of reasons. So I track every hour that I put in on the board work. So thank you to Mr. Franz for his donation and his time on the board. He is sorely missed. But we love you too, Mike. Mr. Valenti is the newest board member.
Mike, you just keep being Mike.
Oh, Mike, you keep being Mike.
That's my job.
That's right. So thank you. Does anybody have any questions for Mr. DeQuilla or Mr. Arnott in Mr. Gilfillan's absence? Again, Mr. DeQuilla is our master of coin. For those that don't know, he's in charge of all of our finances, and he can make a dime look like a quarter. It is incredible how much he goes to, if there's not a consortium to join, he builds one. So he keeps a close eye on every penny in the district.
Bryce going to make 3.09 look like 2.
That's right.
It's going to be good.
I'd like to make it 3-9.
Yeah. So we appreciate your help. So any questions? Seeing none, Mr. DeQuilla, would you mind?
Agenda items B1 through B17. Mr. Arnott?
Yes.
Ms. Chicarelli?
Yes.
Ms. Clark?
Yes.
Mr. Connor?
Yes.
Ms. Cronin?
Yes.
Ms. Kenny?
Yes.
Mr. Valenti? Yes. And Ms. Weber?
Yes.
Agenda items passed 8-0.
Fantastic, thank you. Moving on to curriculum, Ms. Clark?
I move C1 through 3 on the regular agenda for vote. Second.
Does anybody have any questions for Ms. Chase or Dr. LaSousa? Did we get the report? I'm sorry.
What is it? I saw it in here, yep.
Did you see it?
It's here.
Okay, I'll look at yours. Thank you. Oh, perfect, thank you. Can I steal yours? Sure. Thank you. I appreciate it. Any questions? Again, Karen Chase up here in the front is the Assistant Superintendent in charge of curriculum and programs. I just want to, since we have more folks in the room than normal, I want to make sure everybody knows all the players. So this is Karen Chase, soon to be Dr. Chase, not to put any pressure on you. Sorry. I told you I was going to start pressuring you to finish it off. Any additional questions? No, seeing none, Mr. Jaquilla?
Agenda items C1 through C3. Mr. Arnott?
Yes.
Ms. Chicarelli?
Yes.
Ms. Clark?
Yes.
Mr. Connors?
Yes.
Ms. Cronin?
Yes.
Ms. Kenny?
Yes.
Mr. Valenti? Yes. And Ms. Weber?
Yes.
Agenda items passed 8-0.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. Moving on to who we now refer to as Mr. Chairman or Chairman Connors for policy.
I'd like to move policy D1, please.
I'll second.
And this is our first reading, correct,
Yes.
of this policy?
Yes.
Okay.
This is the one that relates to the
School visitors? Perfect. Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Connors? Again, I thank you, Mr. Connors, for taking that one on. It was a complex policy, and I appreciate you spearheading that. If there's no additional questions, Mr. DeQuilla, would you mind?
Agenda item D1, Mr. Arnott.
Yes.
Ms. Ciccarelli?
Yes.
Ms. Clark?
Yes.
Mr. Connors?
Yes.
Ms. Curley?
Yes.
Ms. Kenny?
Yes.
Mr. Valenti? Yes. And Ms. Webb?
Yes.
Agenda item passes 8-0.
Okay, perfect. Now we have our opportunity for board business where we bring up any new business. We maybe make comments about a calendar or something that may have come up, maybe something from the public. I'm going to start off, and Mr. Higgins is still here. So I'd ask the administration, sorry, Peter, I'm going to punt this one to you because you are the master of coin. If you could just keep track of the expenses that may have been incurred recently that were out of the norm, could you please?
I will report them back at the March 20th meeting.
Okay, fantastic, very good. And Dr. LaSousa, just to recap, if we have to give 3 days back on the calendar, you're looking at the day after Easter, which is currently a delayed opening, which you would turn into a full day off, that would be 1 day?
Yes, and then the delayed opening would take place the following day, the Tuesday.
Okay, so on Tuesday. And then what about the Memorial Day weekend? What are you?
Similar, that we would have off the Friday and probably the Tuesday.
Friday, Tuesday?
And then a delayed opening on Wednesday because we have a scheduled delayed opening on the Tuesday now.
And this is for staff and teachers.
It's for,
So the delayed openings, teachers have staff development?
right, when we have a delayed opening, it's for
Okay.
professional
The day
development.
off is for
Yep.
That's going to be a nice long Memorial Day weekend.
I like that.
Sadly, I'll be at
Knock wood.
University of Delaware graduation, which is happy, but ruins my
Okay.
weekend.
Move on.
Hey.
We'll be good.
We won't be good. Does anybody else have any? I don't have anything new for board business. Ms. Clark, you look like you're chomping at the bit.
Well, no, I just want to say.
No, but she's picking up the microphone.
No, I think we need to continue to bring more positive energy into this boardroom. I think oftentimes an issue or a board issue can create a negative spur. I think we've done an amazing job as a board to investigate, to do what we had to do, and I think we've done our job. But I think we need to bring the students in here. The students that spoke tonight are amazing examples of why we do what we do. And we have students that are national merit, semifinalists and scholars. We have so many of them. I looked at the high school website. You could barely count them in one picture. Our robotics club just took it to task and did an amazing job. So great things are happening. And I think we need to remember why we're here, what the important things are, and not get bogged down by the negativity at times.
Excellent. Thank you, Michelle. Does anybody else have any additional board business or comments that they would like to make? Mr.
I
Connors?
would, just very briefly. I've been on the board longer than I'd like to admit, and I've seen, and I've always been impressed by the students who come in and talk, and I think those of you that are still here, we're apparently waiting for your Uber rides, but in any event, you got a snapshot of how incredible the student body here is and how quality the kids are. And listen, the parents who spoke were very moving in their speech, but they pale in comparison to what the students are bringing. And they bring to life the actual lessons. And it just continually blows me away, and that's a tribute to the parents and to the administration and the teachers. But I would also, like Mr. Heap, I'm not a Facebook guy. It's okay to ask questions. And I don't think you may not like what they say, but people should have a right to say it, and they shouldn't feel, I don't mean to get in a soapbox about this, but if you have a question, ask it. And you shouldn't feel threatened to ask a question. There was nothing wrong with asking the question that the two mothers asked. I may not agree or disagree, that's not the point, but they have a right to say it. And quite frankly, it resulted in something special. I haven't seen this many people here ever. And that just shows how impassioned the Chatham is, and there's the silent majority, but it was something good came out of it. And what came out of it was clearly the push of the residents of Chatham to maintain an open and free discourse. And that's what we're trying to teach the kids. And I'm done with my soapbox, and I'm sorry.
Thank you, Rich. I appreciate it.
But feel free to clap if you'd like. Lady with the sign? Come on, lady, get that sign back up there. Yeah. Thank you. I'm seriously, thank you, but
Thank you. It was a very nice, overwhelming show of support. As I said, we don't often get more than 5 or 10 people in here, so, and we, quite frankly, we take that as a sign of everybody's happy. You know, things are moving along. We don't really take it as a negative. Once in a while, it'd be nice to, Mr. Heaps throws us a compliment once in a while, so that's nice of him. But thank you again for coming out. If we have no additional comments from the board, we actually have our second opportunity for public commentary. Sometimes something came up during the agenda or during board business that spurred somebody on. Nabil?
Don't ask me, please.
Just,
He was.
just a reminder, you're limited to 3 minutes speaking.
Okay.
We're going to be fair to everyone tonight.
I hadn't been for a while. I thought I'd have a little more. Thank you very much to the board members for all the work you do day in and day out. I'm here for a shout out for the robotics team from the high school. It is the culmination of a lot of work that, for those who don't know, the technology department that the board had approved a few years back to expand. A bunch of new teachers were hired, and now we are a powerhouse. Chatham is a powerhouse in robotics, and it's because of the work of the teachers, the management. So kudos to Miss Ryan. She's the teacher that's also coaching the teams. It's not just one. So one of them progressed, but there is another team that made it to state, not to super regional. So hopefully one of our teams will make it to the world, make the trip to St. Louis, and maybe bring back some hardware. But beyond that, they are the model for a bunch of kids. There are little leagues of robotics that a bunch of us parents are coaching, and we come in all colors, all backgrounds, all accents, and we are very proud to be part of this community, to help our kids explore, learn new things, open their minds, and support the work that our school does, not so much to give them things, but to make them think, and reinforce the critical thinking of what they do. And that applies to whether it's social studies or science or anything. So thanks to the board for supporting robotics, but also all the education and for the administration for implementing all these programs. Thanks.
Thank you. It's nice to see you again, Nabil.
Jane Devlin. I know there isn't a lot of time or room for give and take, but I did want to ask, please, one question, if possible. What are the steps and strategies other than tonight are going to be taken, if any, to de-escalate the tensions and hostilities and stop the menacing emails and phone calls that have been coming into the schools, or have they already been ceasing?
Yeah, I mean, you're not asking Mike to...
Yeah, I'd rather not comment on any specific messages or emails or coming into the school.
You meant the ones coming in... Okay, I'm sorry.
Inside the schools, I think the students are doing great, and we're going to continue to do what we do. And I think, by and large, our students are having an overwhelmingly positive experience when they come to schools. So we're focused on the kids, and we're not on Facebook. We're not. That noise doesn't sort of penetrate to us.
Okay, so I'm not trying to infer otherwise. I'm not asking for any specific comment on any particular email or menacing. Maybe the question is, do we think tonight is enough now to try to restore Chatham's good standing and for everybody to kind of de-escalate the hostilities? It's certainly a first step. Are we just going to now sort of wait and see and hope the positivity of tonight just sort of carries through, which I'm certainly hopeful of? I mean, what I spoke about earlier this evening was, I think now we should put this to rest. I think it's been effectively addressed tonight, and we all should move on and join back together as a community. I guess I'm hopeful that's happening. Are you hopeful? Is there anything more or different planned? Thank you.
Well, Jane, I have not been the recipient of any hostility from Chatham. What you saw tonight is what my email box has been for 2.5 weeks now.
Good.
So I don't think, from the standpoint of the district, I don't think that tonight changed anything or turned a corner. This has been the level of support, to be totally honest with you, that has been communicated to me over the past two weeks or so.
So there's been no other, like outside press been in touch other than those,
That's all I'm going to say.
that's all in the past. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Jane.
Thank you, Jane.
We'll see you next time.
Hello, Marielle Kolker. I have some good news. I'm here just to kind of point out that Chatham Education Foundation is giving $1,190 tonight. You guys have accepted that for Chatham High School. And to date, actually since September, we have donated $45,182 to the district, which is 23% above last year.
Wow.
Oh, that's so great. Thank you.
And for the people who aren't here that often, can you tell them how much you donated over the entire life?
Oh, and over the course of our 10 years, we hit the $1 million mark a couple of months ago.
Wow.
Good evening. My name is Rosella Clyde, and I live in the borough. I have a question about the solar panels that were placed on the school roof. Glancing through the website, I'm just curious, because I didn't see information about it. How can we find out what percentage of your electric capacity is being handled by the solar panels? Would really like to know. Thank you.
Thank you for the question. Unfortunately, I don't have the answer at the tip of my tongue. I will get it back to you. I will note to you that the solar panels were funded by Morris County, so they didn't cost the district a penny. And the district is actually saving money now buying getting the electric that is produced. But I will report back to you on that. I don't know if Principal Grow is still here, but there is a kiosk in the high school that shows the children how much they can use that as part of the curriculum, which shows how much energy is being produced from the solar panels and the reduction of, obviously, the draw that we have from J.C. Pino. But I don't know the percentage. I'm sorry.
So would it be possible for me just to go and take a look at that kiosk?
I would suggest you contacting the school that you would like to do this,
yes.
so that they can say, yes, please come at such and such a time would be better, rather than just knocking on the door.
Sure, no.
I would think they'd be more than open to have you, and I would think there's a science teacher who is as much enthused about the solar panels as Mr. Mayor is about social studies.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I think we're at a wrap now. So again, thank you all for coming out. I appreciate that. Just double checking. We do not have an executive session? We do not. Then I would like to make a motion to close the public session.
Second.
Mr. Connor, second. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Thank you. Thank you to the board members. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for coming.
Thanks, everyone, for coming.